Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the dismissive avoidant, specifically and how they show up in the dating phase of a relationship. So something that's super important to know is that different attachment styles move through the life cycle of a relationship with different expectations, different needs, different timelines at a subconscious level of how quickly they expect things to progress, different core wounds, obviously, and then different ways of communicating themselves at each of the different stages. And when we don't know somebody else's attachment style or how they're going to move through one of the phases, it makes more space for confrontation to occur, or conflict, positive or negative. If we resolve it effectively, it can be positive, but just more space for challenges to occur. And there's certain rites of passage that are essentially required at each phase of a relationship to be able to progress into the next phase. So these phases of a relationship are based off of Dr. Susan Campbell's work, where she talks about the 5 phases of a relationship: the honeymoon, the power struggle, the stability, the commitment, and the bliss. However, I think it is very important to note that the dating phase is separate from the honeymoon phase. The honeymoon phase is when people are in the honeymoon committed aspect of a relationship. And it's really important to separate out the dating phase further, because that's its own, that's almost, there's so much that happens in that phase that could be, just in terms of depth that you could go into in that phase, equal to all the other stages combined almost. I mean, minus the power struggle. Those are the two juicy, so much is going on phases of relating. So we really want to understand that. And we also want to understand how our attachment style might operate differently from somebody else's. So for example, a fearful avoidant and a dismissive avoidant have different expectations for how quickly they expect a relationship to progress from dating into a commitment, and then how quickly each attachment style goes from being in the honeymoon to suddenly being in the power struggle phase, and their relationship to the phases. So there's certain lessons or requirements needed to pass on to the next phases. As an example, one of the big cornerstones of moving through the power struggle phase is the ability to be able to accept somebody else's flaws and be vulnerable and share yours in a productive manner. And there's so many tools that you can use to effectively do that. So I do have advanced attachment style courses that go into all of this, and they provide sort of a roadmap. If you want to join and check that stuff out, amazing. The coupon code to join is with you, all one word. It gives you access to all 32 courses at the end of this month. And it covers all the attachment style courses, so you can see everybody else's roadmap and your own, whether it's a child, whether it's a parent. And these phases apply to every relationship, including friendships and building a friendship. So I will stay on track for this right now. And if you are going through any financial difficulties and you really feel like this is important for you, because it's so important, the material, I just think it's a game changer for navigating things, please reach out to my team, info@Personal Development School, and we have different scholarship options available as well, because I recognize it's sort of a funky time around the world. So we're just trying to make sure we have options for everybody to be supported who wants to grow and learn and work on themselves. And maybe during all of the funniness in the world right now, being able to focus on something that makes you feel expansive and insightful and understanding, and helps you break through things in your relationship and save time that would otherwise be spent in maybe challenging dynamics. So, and do that healing work for yourself too. So let's go into the dismissive avoidant. First thing you want to know, dismissive avoidants in the dating phase, they usually want to spend time with somebody once, twice a week max if they're really interested. So they're not ones, even though they can be super interested in somebody, they're not necessarily going to want, irrespective if they have all of these, exciting feelings and points of attraction, they're not really going to want to spend more than twice a week together. That's very rare to see, and that's going to be really confusing for somebody who's anxious, who expects, for example, that if you're going to be with somebody in a relationship in the dating phase, oh my gosh, we should be seeing each other, 5 nights a week if we care about each other. And it's really easy for there to be points of contention where somebody goes, geez, you don't want to see me 5 nights a week, you must not be that interested in me. And so that's important to sort of recognize and be able to rectify, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, dismissive avoidants generally want to stay 4 to 6 months in the phase of dating before making a commitment towards exclusivity or to being further committed in a relationship, to having a talk about where we are, you know, how we stand, right? This is not to say that as somebody of a different attachment style that you're supposed to just wait that 4 to 6 months. It's to say these are the unconscious expectations that this person is carrying. So you would just have to recognize the impact of if you have a conversation at the 2-week mark about where we stand. It feels very early to somebody who carries a different set of subconscious programs. It doesn't mean that both people shouldn't express their needs and be really clear. And it also means that, you know, anxious, preoccupied, fearful avoidance, people who might want to move along faster can say, hey, this doesn't have to be right now. I'm not saying we have to make a commitment immediately, but I just want to know that at some point down the line, you're on board for that and you would be interested in that. And it's okay to still express your needs, make sure that person's on board, and then find a time frame that works for both of you as a compromise by both individuals clearly considering themselves, communicating their needs and desires, and then finding a compromise instead of one or both people not sharing and then making a sacrifice by ignoring their needs and their feelings and then resenting the other person as a byproduct. So those two things are very important to know. There's so much to say about this phase in terms of all the things that come up. But another really important thing to note is that dismissive avoidants generally do not start opening up a lot until they are in usually the stability phase of a relationship, okay? They'll open up a little, they will, but it's very slow and progressive. And then usually once you're in the stability phase, because there's so many subconscious associations with safety, that's when you start to see a pivot in the dismissive avoidant specifically. And that's really important to know if you are the dismissive avoidant watching this. Now, if you want to work on becoming more secure as a dismissive avoidant, you want to actively practice programming in vulnerability and then making new emotional associations. So being a little bit more vulnerable over time consistently than you normally would be. And then each time you do, and you've made that conscious choice to share something personal, to express a feeling, to share a fear, you know, things like this. Each time you do that, let yourself know you're safe, you're courageous, you can do this, good for you, I just did that, you know, give yourself that positive emotional affirmation, because that programs in new associations in relationship to vulnerability, and it helps to equilibrate those old stored programs that are there. You will see that a dismissive avoidant becomes more vulnerable later. It's so interesting. They're very charming a lot in the dating phase, and they can seem like they're emotionally available. But then usually if you ask too much, like anything too personal, things like that, most people will feel that they hit this wall. And that's a good way of recognizing that somebody could be dismissive avoidant. It's not the only way, because some people can just be private about very specific or certain things, but it's usually a signpost that's letting you know that. So those things are really important to recognize. There's so much more to say about this, but this phase is very important. I'll just say the last two things. It's very important for vetting somebody, for taking the time to look for red flags, see if this person meets your needs, see if you meet their needs, see if there's a good fit, good chemistry, good communication, if both people are willing to put in mutual effort, if they want similar things. This time is the time for doing those things and having those conversations. And sometimes dismissives do it just from are you going to fit into my life perspective? And sometimes other individuals are more am I going to fit into your life? Will I earn your worth or your love? And what's healthy in the dating phase is to have an appropriate balance of both. And how that comes about is to have healthy, informative conversations where you give yourself permission, not maybe the first date, but over time, to ask some important questions about what people are looking for in their lives and their future plans, and what they want to create and what makes them tick, and all these things, so you can start to evaluate. Because our time is very precious. If you want to just be pouring your time into a person, if you think that it's worth doing that. So there's so much more I can say. Please let me know any other questions you might have. I'm sure there's a million, because I have so many things around this. Maybe I'll do a later part 2 of a series or something like that. But let me know your questions. Please know that I have all this information and the reprogramming tools necessary around your pain points and wounds that come up in each stage and unconscious expectations in the courses as well. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're getting a lot of value out of this channel, and I will see you in the next video.